We know from research that a leader's opinion is sought after more than others. We know that when there's a meeting, people will defer to the leader. We know that even when a leader is not present, his or her opinions are always constantly in the minds of people. And so it is. The leader sets the tone. You know, there's a lesson for each of us in our own leadership styles. We as leaders, we get to choose the tone that we instill in our organizations each and every day.
I speak in various areas of leadership development, and I'm especially interested in emotional intelligence, nonverbal communication, and also helping leaders assess the credibility of others, which kind of gets into truth detection, truth and lies. There are definite consequences for the outcomes of an organization. I think what we see from leadership that is not quite emotionally intelligent is higher rates of turnover, higher days of sick leave, and I think in general, a lower morale.
And as I walk in the morning, Sally would give me these strange terms, like she would point a finger up or she would point a finger down. And I had no idea what was this. And so I met Kevin later that day and said, Kevin, I think I've got it in with Sally, and she's giving me these signals and I have no idea what they mean. So he said to me, well, what's she saying? He said, well, some morning she'll do this, some morning she'll do that. And Kevin said, oh, I know what that is. In the mornings that she does this, it means the boss came in a good mood. When she does that, it means the boss came in a bad mood. We have a term for that. It's called Unmedicated Days. And as I would deliver the mail and the coffee, I began to notice something. On the thumbs up days, the doors were open. There was laughter. People interacted. But in the thumb down days, people's doors were shut. There wasn't a sound in the air. And the consequence of that, of course, is there was no collaboration. Nothing was happening.
I was born in Northern Ireland, and I am classically known as a child of the Troubles. I grew up there just as they were beginning. And it was a society that was broken, that had fallen apart, where one side could not trust the other side. So I think instilled from childhood was this desire within me to be able to bring people together, to really look at why does communication break down? How can we build up a stronger relationship between people?
On March 30th, 1973, in a small, sleepy village in the western part of Northern Ireland, at about 9:35 in the evening, two masked IRA gunmen walked into the village's only pub. They went straight to the front and they placed a firebomb on the counter. They looked at Brian, the owner, and they said, you have 10 minutes to clear this place before this goes off. Brian immediately ran into action. He went up the stairs to warn his wife and 4 daughters who were watching TV at the time. Then he ran into the bedroom of his youngest child, his 6-year-old son. He grabbed him from the bed. He ran out the door, down the stairs, out the back door, across the road to safety. He was relieved to see his wife and 4 daughters standing there. Just then, a terrible sound erupted and fire spread instantaneously throughout the building. Brian and his family watched while everything they owned burned before their very eyes. Still holding tightly to his son, Brian raised a clenched fist in an act of defiance and said, "Watch me build again." And on April the 7th, you'd have seen in the background that burnt bar from the week before. But you'd have also seen a tent. You'd have heard the sound and the lilt of music. Laughter was in the air as people communicated and as people enjoyed each other's company. Such is the power of quiet and determined leadership. Such is the power that in the midst of anxiety in our lives, we have the power to calmly go forward and change everything in our midst.
Part of my experience as well was leading organizations. And as I look back at some of that experience, I realize that if I had better emotional intelligence, if I had some deeper knowledge of nonverbal communication, then at that time I might have made better decisions. Because decision making is at the core of leadership. And we know that leaders who are more emotionally intelligent, leaders who have a command of nonverbal communication, who are able to assess other people, they make better decisions. They make quicker decisions. And leadership today is in a world that is getting quicker and more complex. And as we look at that reality, if leaders can make better, quicker decisions, then they're able to adapt to the environment we find ourselves in.
Now, that system proved our survival. That's why we're here today. However, it also gets in our way today. You see, that system cannot be turned off. And so back then, it was a woolly mammoth. Today, we can be in a meeting and it's a comment that Tom makes. And all of a sudden, our ears go up and we say to ourselves internally, what did he just say? And then we get fixated. And all of a sudden, we have been triggered. And that same emotion comes into play. All the oxygen goes from our brain and all that train leaves the tracks as we perceive what he said or even looked at us a certain way as a threat. You see, the limbic brain has a problem. And the problem is it doesn't do a great job differentiating between real threat and threat that we make up in our mind. The other problem is all that oxygen is coming away from our brain, and so it downgrades the quality of our thinking. And so when we're triggered, it means that we're only able to think in black and white. Our power for curiosity is diminished. We want to run to a quick fix solution. None of this serves us well in roles of leadership. And yet each and every day, we're dealing with moments of being triggered. Now, there is good news in this. And the good news is, with enough attention, with enough curiosity, we're able to examine those moments when we are triggered. And that triggering doesn't have to be automatic. We can literally stop the train. And we can place within us the ability to pause and to have a more thoughtful response. Can you imagine what it would be like for your day as a leader if you were able to pause before some of your reactive tendencies? Could you imagine if you could harness the full power of your brain and bring the quality of your decision making to a new level? Could you imagine that instead of reacting to some comment which is thrown out there, to be able to look at it with curiosity and to be able to say, I wonder what all that's about. Those skills are not magical. Those skills can be learned. Today, we're going to learn some tools, some practical tools that you can take away from here that will help you in those moments. Instead of reacting, to be able to say, stop the train. I'm going to choose a different track today.
You know, leadership is incredibly difficult. And I think, there's a saying that one of the things that leaders never get is the truth. So imagine having access to a whole new world of data that helps you in this difficult position have as much information as you need to make better decisions. And that's what we're talking about. I'm not saying that knowing these skills will take away the challenges of leadership. But what I am saying is with these skills, the challenges become a little easier and you're able to make those better decisions.
Can you imagine what it would be like if you had the ability to differentiate between truth and lies? Can you imagine the power that you would have if you were able to look at someone and to be able to detect some of the emotions in their face? Can you imagine the cost benefit for you and your organization if you were able to use this information to help you reduce turnover, to help you make better informed decisions, to help you improve your negotiation when you're across the table wondering, is this person being truthful or are they lying? Can you imagine just in general your ability to strike better relationships, more profound relationships with the people around you because you had the ability to read them in a more profound way? The good news is this is not just a gift for the few. This is a gift for everyone. It's the training of a new muscle. And the invitation to each and every one of you is this: to be able to recalibrate that lens. And instead of focusing just on one element, to expand it and open a whole new world of data, which potentially can change the way you lead.